that we've spotted. We've been calling in the LAPD, giving them a damage estimate, helping out, and they've been able to respond some units out to these various areas. Also, as you can imagine, we have heard reports of looting in some areas of Los Angeles, people taking advantage of the situation. Also, in the aerial tour that we've been taking of the San Fernando Valley and through Malibu, extensive damage in areas that you would expect. For example, in the areas of the hillsides along Pacific Coast Highway, we've had numerous...
Talking this morning about the powerful earthquake that we have all felt. We will find out a little bit more about what the federal government has in mind in the way of assistance for Southern California. We've already heard the Federal Emergency Management Agency is coming out to set up shop right on the scene immediately. So when the president does speak, we will go to him live.
You are looking at a live picture right now of Granada Hills. That's where Joe Rico is standing by, and give us an update. What's happening out there now, Joe?
Well, Carla, we're here at the intersection of Rinaldi and Balboa, and as we swing the camera around to the left, you will see basically water cascading down from the northern part of Balboa. And right behind us is one of probably two main gas lines that ruptured this morning. We understand that 5 homes have been burned. As you look at the flames, to the right of the flames there are 2 homes, to the left 3 more. And we understand right in the middle of the flames there is a pickup truck. We're not sure whether or not somebody got caught in there, whether or not somebody perished in the fire. But as it is right now, take a look over here as well to the left. There are 4 other vehicles that are caught in the buckled asphalt. We're not sure. We're talking to one photographer, and he was basically surmising that maybe these motorists were heading to work and suddenly got caught in the quake and in the darkness and suddenly didn't know what they were driving up into, and suddenly they slammed into the buckled asphalt. We weren't too sure whether or not there's any injuries involved in that at this point in time. But again, as far as the homes that were burned, we're not sure whether or not there are any injuries right now. There were 2 gas mains burning. Apparently one must have either burned itself off or else might have just melted that asphalt and then joined into one major flame out over here. And in the foreground you see one of the main water mains basically still in the process of just spewing out just gallons and gallons of, well, I should say hundreds of gallons of water per minute. And the water basically cascading down here again as it's going down towards Rinaldi and working its way, if you will, towards the 118 freeway. And it's pretty flooded over there, the CHP, as we turn around. In fact, let's give it a shot, Larry. Take a look back over here. You have the highway patrol blocking off the entrance to the 118 freeway now. I'm not sure whether that means that possibly that the runoff there has, if you undermine part of the freeway structure again, and but basically the traffic is shut down there, and right around here from left to right going east to west on Rinaldi Avenue there.
Driving around your district.
Well, this is the part of my district that has been hardest hit, and the farther north you go in the valley, the worse it gets apparently. But I came over Beverly Glen Boulevard, and it's a mess. Boulders in the road, water mains busted. Streets have collapsed here in the Sherman Oaks area. Sidewalks have buckled, and things like this. Housing collapsing, and the stores on Ventura Boulevard and elsewhere have their windows.
Most everybody was safely ensconced in their beds, and at home or in an apartment building, notwithstanding the one that Joe McMahon is covering there in Reseda, that is pretty much the best place you can be in an earthquake.
It is indeed. We have Mark Coogan standing by closer to the center of what happened to us this morning, and that's up in North Hills at the 118 and Gothic, we understand. Mark?
And that's correct. This is the 118 freeway, and you're looking westbound, but now look down into the pit here. This was the bridge over Gothic Avenue. It collapsed flat right down onto the avenue, and this motorist, or 2 people, I believe, were in this car here traveling eastbound on the Simi Valley or 118 freeway when the bridge collapsed, and down they went. The car crashed into what was left of the bridge that was still standing. We understand the 2 people who were in the car were taken out by neighbors here and taken to the hospital. But you can see exactly what happened. It's reminiscent of freeway damage you've seen in other earthquakes. The bridge on the eastbound lanes of the 118 simply collapsed in 3 sections, broke off, crashed straight down onto the ground. There is along the crack here, you can see the reinforcement bars were just sheared off, just cut straight off. And along the edge here, there's a metal expansion joint. Look at it. That's a piece of steel. It's twisted like a hairpin. It is twisted like a hairpin. And notice over here on this corner, this house, look where the bridge fell. The bridge fell right across the corner of the yard of the house where you see the people. That's how close it came. Residents around here said, obviously, like everybody else, they were jolted out of bed with their belongings crashing around them. One man told us he lives in an apartment not too far away from here in North Hills over on Chatsworth Street, and he and others had to go around door to door, kicking doors open to get people out of their apartments to evacuate them because they had been trapped inside with things falling all around them. The whole area here is ringed by smoke. This is where the natural gas fires have been. Balboa Boulevard's over there about a quarter mile or so, and there's still smoke rising. And you look around over to the other side, the San Fernando side, and there's smoke over there. But the most dramatic damage right here, again, this is the 118 freeway. You're looking at what had been the eastbound lanes right near Havenhurst. This is a bridge over Gothic Avenue. There was no on-ramp or off-ramp here, but it collapsed right down onto Gothic. And that car, that motorist in that car and a passenger apparently were driving along here, rode the bridge down and then crashed into the part of the bridge and the abutment that still is standing, the part that we are standing on here. Imagine what this might have been during an inbound commute. If this had not happened at 4:30 in the morning on a holiday, this is a very, very busy freeway, this side especially, people heading into town. Reporting live from North Hills, Mark Coogan, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Mark, I'm still trying to imagine the neighbors scrambling up onto that freeway bridge and pulling people out of that car and getting them to the hospital in the dark. That's an incredible story.
Well, it is. We're going to go around the neighborhood and look to see who did it. People here obviously were operating by flashlight and lantern light because there's no power around here. And everybody around says the insides of their houses are just trashed.
Any idea how seriously injured these folks were, Mark?
I do not, because residents of the area were actually shooed off the bridge by the CHP because we're on the sheer edge of nothing here, and the Highway Patrol didn't want anyone else hurt. So I'm going to have to climb down off the bridge and go into the neighborhood to find out what happened.
I assume, and we're losing your signal a little bit, I assume that Gothic is closed off underneath so nobody can drive under that thing?
There is yellow tape on either side, either intersection that we can see north and south on Gothic. Gothic is a north-south street. The 118 freeway is closed from over on the Hollywood freeway, the 170 side on the east to at least Balboa on the west, and maybe out past that to Reseda, because it's buckled all along. Every time this freeway goes over a bridge, there's a big swayback section to it, and then here, of course, the whole thing collapsed.
It sure did, and boy, it's going to be months and months and months before any of that is cleaned up and repaired.
Gene, this is tons of concrete and steel that has now crashed down onto this intersection and onto people's yards around here.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because you were mentioning it, Ann, that when you drive the freeway, sometimes you think about it as you're going over a bridge or under an underpass. I know of people that say they will not drive under an underpass if they're in bumper-to-bumper traffic. They'll sit and wait until the car ahead of them has gone under it, and they shoot through just for this reason, that odd chance that an earthquake could hit and it drops down on them, and we can see the effects of an earthquake here. I mean, this is being repeated all over the San Fernando Valley. These bridges, as Mark said, buckled, and some of them collapsed, and the freeway system now is an absolute mess. And I guess we've said it before, we should repeat it, that people who might be inclined to get in their cars and try to drive someplace either to see this or to get to work or whatever, unless you're absolutely essential in your job, it is time to stay home today and just take stock of what happened at your house and stay away from these major areas of destruction because they don't need you in the way.
I was just driving through the Antelope Valley last weekend, not this past one, but the one before. And if you haven't been out there lately, if you live there, you know this pretty well. There are thousands and thousands of new homes out in the Antelope Valley, and those are people who are commuting into Los Angeles, and they're not going to be getting into work for a long time. And
that's absolutely true.
An irreplaceable route for them, that 114.
And west of this area, we saw the collapse on the 118 is Simi Valley and Moore Park. That also is a major suburban area to Los Angeles, and those folks are going to have a difficult time coming in. And out in Valencia area and out towards
which we haven't heard
Newhall.
Any reports from that Newhall area. Newhall, Valencia, and Santa Clarita. Our Todd Donahoe lives out in that area. We know that there were problems up along Magic Mountain on that freeway, so we can assume that the Quake vibes traveled north as well as south, but so far we haven't heard anything, and of course nobody can get through on that I-5. And the phones are down, so they can't call us either.
Gay, when we talked to you a little bit earlier this morning, you had spoken to the man there in the house adjacent to the freeway. Were you able to see any of the other residents, any of the other homes that are right nearby? Is he the only one that sustained severe damage that you know of?
He seems to be the one that is worse off, yes. Everyone else seems to be okay. We did speak to some people over at the public storage. There are 2 public storage facilities here, and sometimes some of the people actually stay inside these spaces. One gentleman had a bump on his head, but he got out okay. His greatest concern is there is also a public storage facility right underneath this freeway, and he was very, very concerned about a friend who may be trapped inside. He's been looking and calling for him, but so far has not found him, and we have not heard any more on that.
Gay, as we look at your pictures, if you'll hold for just a moment, the latest report we're getting in now, this is being reported by Reuters, is that at least 25 people have now been killed from this morning's earthquake, and those homes out in Sylmar, that being the mobile home park at the intersection of 210 and the 5, they continue to burn. At least 45 have been destroyed so far.
Well, that's understandable. I've lived through many earthquakes, grew up in San Francisco, and I have never felt anything quite like this.
Yeah, I must tell you also, there's conflicting reports on that death toll. The City of Los Angeles officials are reporting only 3 so far. The Red Cross and Reuters are reporting at least 25, and we'll try to get that cleared up.
Now, the police department has shut down this area. Another thing that is quite a problem is that as we fly over the West Los Angeles area, the smell of gas is quite strong, quite overbearing. We've had, as you saw graphically earlier on Channel 2, we saw a number of gas mains explode, taking with it homes and sometimes mobile homes. So as we flew over West Los Angeles and as we fly over West LA, we smell that gas. It's very important to turn your gas lines off if you smell gas and not to keep any electrical devices on.
Do you see any fires at all, Bob, in the West Los Angeles area?
There were a couple earlier, and most of them have been extinguished at this point. We're getting a little bit of feedback.
Bob,
yeah.
Where we see the 10 has collapsed onto Venice Boulevard, and did it actually collapse down onto Venice Boulevard? And do you have any indication where any vehicles might have been trapped under there?
From the aerial perspective that we have, we can't tell whether or not any vehicles were trapped underneath. However, there literally are vehicles using some of the other underpasses under the 10 freeway. It does not appear as though it buckled sufficiently to actually trap any vehicles in that picture that you're seeing right now. I'd like to drop down. There were some other building collapses in the vicinity here. Let's drop on down here. Look down through there. I can't tell, but it appears as though no vehicles were caught here. However, there's another portion of the 10 freeway here at Venice Boulevard. Take a look at this. Here's a huge chunk that was taken out, collapsing this area. We understand one person received moderate injuries at this site. He was driving along when this portion of the freeway collapsed. He was bloodied, taken off to, was able to get out of the vehicle under his own power, and has made it over to a trauma center. We understand that UCLA, Kaiser Permanente, Brotman Memorial Hospitals are okay. They are taking a lot of walking wounded coming in that were injured in the quake. Rescue ambulances, fire department units stretched beyond imagination at this point, as you can imagine.
Bob, can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
All right, there seems to be some confusion as to where this collapse actually is. We were shown by Dave Barker earlier a collapse of the Santa Monica Freeway onto the Fairfax and Washington area. Where are we looking? What is this area we're looking at now?
Well, this is the 10 freeway, the Santa Monica Freeway at Venice Boulevard.
Okay, that's
now,
a separate thing.
Now, as we pan over to the right, it's had numerous problems. Now, this is at Fairfax, which is just no more than maybe 1/8 of a mile away. Another section of freeway collapsed. Now we're going to pan over to Kaiser Permanente. Marika is going to show you a picture of a parking structure behind one of the administration and outpatient clinic buildings.
So this is another parking. This is a whole different Kaiser Permanente building. Earlier, Harvey 11 was Woodland Hills, where the Kaiser Permanente hospital facility had some major structural damage. So this major HMO in the Southern California area has been struck very hard.
At least twice.
Indeed, it has been hit very hard. And we understand that there were vehicles inside the structure at the time of the collapse. And then, you know, as you can see from these pictures, someone has set up some tape. However, in terms of getting urban search and rescue in here to do their job, we don't see them on site at this point. and that's just because they are literally stretched to the limits at this point. We're listening to 911 dispatches at this point, and really there's so many dispatches pouring in to the city switchboards at this point that fire department personnel can't get there. And once again, on the strong smell, here I am at 800 feet over this area, and we smell gas, a strong smell of natural gas. Now, look over here. We're going to pan over. You see a little smoke in one fire department unit on station here in an apartment house fire just north of the Santa Monica Freeway. Another gas line explosion fire. This is under control at this point. And let's just recap again what we've seen. Pacific Coast Highway heavily damaged because of falling boulders and rock slides, mud slides in that area. Also in the area of Sylmar.
We can show you a little bit more of what has happened. Jim, if you'll pan up, you can see this is where the stairs were that led up to the 4 levels of this parking structure. It is everything that we are seeing today is very reminiscent of 1971, only worse. And it is particularly frightening because large concrete structures were never supposed to collapse. Now, I can't hear you right now in the studio.
Well, we're just amazed by the amount of devastation.
Okay, now I got it. I'm sorry. I had lost my IFB for a second. I was hearing nothing. But it is truly frightening because I don't know when this was built, but it certainly isn't that old. I mean, this is post-71.
Sure. And as we watch these pictures, once again, you're struck by what might have happened if this quake had occurred, after people were awake, when they were using the freeways, when this parking structure might have been full of people.
We're going to walk around while we're talking. We're going to try and walk around to the front of it so that you can get a little bit better view from the front side of the building. Well, that's the thing. No question that happening at 4 in the morning or 4:30 in the morning was infinitely better. In 1971, I lived in Granada Hills and thought that truly the end of the world had come. And this was even worse.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people felt that way this morning.
Yeah, look at the way these the concrete, and this is reinforced concrete, steel reinforced concrete. Look at the way it advanced. It just sort of collapsed in itself. And another thing I should mention, between the smell of natural gas and the smell of fire, the air is just filled. It's almost a stench. Everywhere you go, it's the smell of leaking gas or fire.
Well, I hope that doesn't mean that pretty soon you're smelling that gas right where you are.
No, at this point, it was mostly, I smelled it much more in Sherman Oaks, and I think the gas company probably has a pretty good handle on it. There's always going to be some residual scent even after they've gotten it turned off.
Maura, what were the roads like, and what things did you see on your way to Northridge from Hollywood this morning?
Well, surprisingly,